This is a Ficus Elastica. These are also Ficus Elastica. And today we're going to propagate it together. It's one of the easiest plants to propagate. And this technique applies to all Ficus Elastica across the board, no matter the variety that you have. So let's go ahead and propagate it now. We want to take cuttings. So we want to propagate more in the warmer weather like spring and summer, because the actual new plant is going to grow roots or leaves faster compared to autumn and winter where the weather tends to be colder. But if you live in a place around the world and the weather is more stable, it's more around same weather around the world, you can go ahead and propagate it anytime that you like. With the clean clippers, I'm just going to clean mine with an alcohol wipe. And let's go ahead and get cuttings. So with the cuttings, you want the cuttings to be long enough to support the new plant and be able to grow new roots and new leaves. You don't want the cutting to be so short that it's not going to be enough to support the actual growth of new roots or new leaves. So the cutting size I suggest is around about 10 to 15 centimeters long, which equivalents to around about 4 to 6 inches long. And that gives the cutting enough to actually support new growth. Also enough nodes on the stem to grow new leaves, new branches, or actually grow new roots. And what are nodes? Well, nodes are basically areas where new branches or leaves can grow out of it. And you want a minimum of 2 nodes, but better to have at least 3 nodes. And to locate nodes are easily found on the stem of the plant. And nodes look like these brown ring that goes around the plant. It's also an area where the leaf is growing out of it. So that's the easiest way to locate nodes. And you want to cut in between a node. Just get the clean clippers and cut in between it. I just go ahead and cut it horizontally. Some people like to cut it at a 45-degree angle. For myself, I found it doesn't make a difference whether I cut it horizontally or 45 degrees. The success rate is just still the same. Now also when taking cuttings, Ficus Elastica produces this milky sap, so it's always good to wear gloves because you don't want that sap to go on the skin because it can irritate the skin. Also pop some paper towel or towel when taking cuttings, because if that sap drips on the floor there, it can actually stain and ruin your flooring. So putting a paper towel or some sort of towel actually prevents that. And once you actually get rid of all that milky sap with a paper towel there, what you want to do is actually dip it into rooting hormone. I'm just using this powdery rooting hormone. There's all different ones. Either one, whichever you use is fine there. You don't have to go to the most expensive one. The cheap rooting hormone works absolutely fine. And the rooting hormone, what it does is that it helps the new cutting to grow new roots faster, but also to help reduce and prevent the actual ends of the cutting from rotting or being infected by a fungal or bacterial disease. Once that's done, I set it aside and I'm going to get the potting mix ready. The potting mix I use for Ficus Elastica consists of 50% potting mix, 50% cacti soil, and a few pieces of horticulture charcoal just to help to prevent bacterial from building up in the soil. And I'm using just a plain old nursery pot with a lot of holes in it. And you do want a pot that has drainage holes because you don't want the cutting to be sitting in wet soil for too long. You want the actual water to be able to drain out of the drainage holes. And the pot size I'm using is just a small 10 centimeter pot, so you don't need anything large. If you have lots of multiple cuttings, then go for a bigger pot size. Once that's done, I get my cuttings, I pull off the bottom leaves. You don't need that many leaves because if you do have too many leaves in the cutting, the plant is going to try and maintain and keep the leaves healthy rather than growing roots. And the first stage of propagation is that you want the cutting to grow roots, prioritizing growing roots rather than the leaves. So I pull the bottom leaves off there. I leave only 2, maximum 3 leaves. If the leaves are also quite large, I will tend to cut them in half as well. Also, for the same reason, so that the plant prioritizes in growing roots rather than maintaining the leaves. You just want enough leaves so that the plant can still photosynthesize while it's growing new roots. Once that's done there, I've popped the cutting, I dig a hole in the pot and I pop the cutting in the pot and I backfill it up. And then I make sure that I thoroughly water the pot there and making sure that the excess water is completely drained away. When I'm propagating plants, I don't put it back into a cover pot when it comes to a Ficus Elastica. I will leave it in the nursery pot and just put it into a tray, but make sure that the excess water is drained away. Now, Ficus Elastica are sun-loving plants. They want as much sunlight as possible. In saying that, these are young plants. They don't have any root system. So you don't want to put it in direct afternoon sunlight because the leaves are gonna burn. You want to put it in direct morning sunlight or all day long indirect sunlight. That will give enough light for the new cuttings to grow but prevent from the leaves from burning. And then I go and do the same care routine as a normal Ficus Elastica in the sense that I will re-water the plant once the soil is completely dried. So these are ones that I did previously 3 months ago, and you can see that it has grown a lot new leaves there, and the cutting is nice and healthy because the stem is not black. There's new growth. So let's check up the root system. So these root system are nice and white and healthy. They're not brown and mushy. If you see brown mushy roots and a funky smell, well, it means that the roots are rotting. Well, these are nice and white and healthy. So I can actually give this plant away just as it is. This is another set I did, and these ones here are more like 5 months old, and so they're actually larger. I actually planted 3 cuttings in a pot, and literally all the cuttings have survived. Now, like I mentioned before, Ficus Elastica are one of the easiest plants to propagate, but still there is no guarantee that it's going to be 100% successful though. So the more cuttings you do, the better it is. And you can see with 5 months old, the roots are a lot more bigger, they're more stronger, and once again, they're ready to be given away. So that's how easy it is to propagate a Ficus Elastica, and they're wonderful plants to propagate and easy to propagate to give it away to friends or family. Now, if you want to know how to notch your plant or how to make your Ficus Elastica more bushy, then watch this video here where I explain how to make your Ficus Elastica more bushy. I'll see you next video.